All right, we're live, but we got to let it breathe just for a quick moment here while we bring on Facebook and Instagram. And we'll get into this. The party cometh to an end. You know, it's like they say, Zach, oh, the Broncos, they're playing with house money, but there's a reason why they also say the house always wins. But hey, welcome in, everybody. It's the Gut Reaction Mile High Huddle podcast. Broncos fall big time to the Bills. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zach, we have plenty of time to get into what it all means relative to the season and whatnot. But as far as the game itself, the Broncos get trucked 31-7. As we were talking right before we went live, it was pretty close. It was a close game till about the bottom of the third, and then the Broncos just gave up the ghost. Yeah. And now the final score, of course, makes it look like a utter blowout. But your gut reaction for people?
Oh man, it's a game. You know, we talked about, Chad, the Broncos need to bring their A game to Buffalo in the playoffs if you want to win, and that was not their A game. You can't miss field goals, you can't drop passes, you can't miss tackles. They couldn't get after the quarterback, they couldn't stop the run, they couldn't run the ball. None of those things are a recipe for success, and I kind of had the feeling it was either going to be a very close Broncos win or a Broncos blowout loss, and that's what we got today. But I think the overarching message, Chad, for me is positivity because season over or not, it was a massive success for one reason, and that one reason being the Broncos found their franchise quarterback. I thought for the most part, play calling aside, Bo Nix looked very good today. You can argue he was the only one that actually showed up today, Chad, in Buffalo.
Yeah, got off to a hot start, banger with that beautiful touchdown. As you tweeted, Sports Illustrated, the mothership, covered this too. The first ever rookie-to-rookie touchdown in the NFL playoff history. Are you kidding me? That seems wild, but true nonetheless. And you're going, yeah, okay, Broncos came to play, and I think they did. But like we talk about with the playoffs is, you know, the Broncos, this isn't the regular season where that one big play to open a game is going to put the other team in a shell or carry you as a team for another 2.5, 3 quarters till you figure out how to do something else real well. You're not capturing lightning in a bottle if you're going to advance in the playoffs. You command the lightning. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be the lightning, and the Bills showed you that. They said, oh, okay, what did Josh Allen do? First thing, he goes, oh, Bo Nix touchdown, big play, okay. He methodically marches down the field, big, long, extensive drive, rushes, throws. And yeah, they only get a field goal, but that was the beginning. He just did that every single time, just stayed on the field. Like when they, I'm going to wind this up here in a second because I want to grab this phenomenal, the community's going off. But when we talked about Zach going into Cincy 3 weeks ago, it's like, hey, you got to stay on the field because you got to keep Joe Burrow on the sideline. That was one of the keys today. And that was failed big time, not only because the Broncos ground game couldn't thrive, so they faced a lot of third and longs, but Zach, that run defense, and then we're going to get to the chat, was utterly atrocious. Just for the sake of posterity here, the Denver Broncos relinquished 210 yards on the ground in a playoff game, almost always a recipe for a loss.
I'm surprised the defense got pushed around the way they did today, especially up front, Chad, John Franklin Myers. I mean, Zach Allen had a decent game, but where was the physicality? Where was the dominance that we saw at the line of scrimmage? Anything Buffalo wanted? It reminded me a little bit of the Cincinnati game, where anything Burrow wanted, he got. Anything Buffalo wanted today, Chad, on the ground or through the air, they got. It was a no-show on defense, and whoa, Chris. Thank you so much. I want to make one point, Chad, that it exposed on defense that they're a few horses short. We always talk about the lack of offensive firepower. The Broncos badly need a linebacker and a safety this coming offseason.
Yes, indeed. Chris, love you, bro. Seriously, this is punctuating what has been an amazing Mount Rushmore season for you. Your support, your contributions to the community. And I just want you to know, big dog, we do not take it for granted. We do not take you for granted. We are grateful and appreciative of everything you bring to the table and how you help us keep the lights on. And guys, I'm bummed for you. Broncos are out. It's a bummer, but my heart is full. You know, I'm not here depressed, bummed out because we finally snapped the curse. The team's moving in the right direction. I mean, Tony Romo's been right every step of the way. When he called that Baltimore game and we got our, what's handed to us, he's like, nah, you're going to see these Broncos in the playoffs. Turns out he was right. And what did he say today? He's like, this is the first of many. The Broncos, they found their guy. So my heart's full in that sense. Love you, Chris. He says, proud of this team. Despite the 89 plus million in dead money on the cap, they got double-digit wins and made the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. The future looks bright to me. Go Broncos. Amen to that, brother.
Thank you so much, Chris. That's amazing generosity. It sounds insincere because we say it so often to you, but we talk about it off camera, talk about it on camera. You are carrying the podcast in terms of your contributions, and we thank you profusely. And everything you said there is true because it starts and ends with the quarterback. And we've been searching for a decade, Chad, for that franchise guy. And take away the bad from this game, they need a better offensive play calling. I thought Sean Payton in the second half went back to playing not to lose, horizontal east-west football, but you put some playmakers around Bo Nix, tight end, another receiver, a running back, and you have your guy for the long term, and you have competitiveness, Chad, for the long term.
And while this thing was still a game, I mean, the main story of this one isn't all blowout. Turns out the odds makers were right, 31-7. If you're the Denver Broncos, the story of this game is missed opportunities. You have the Sutton drop early in the game that killed a drive. You have the fake punt. Sean Payton shows cashews that clank, right? When he moves, it goes clank like a bell ringing on a clock tower, right? You can't convert, though. You get the first down, you move the chains, but you still end up having to punt. The missed field goal, Zach, at the end of the second quarter. When does he miss? He'd been killing 50s all year long. He misses. Doink, big thunk. And then, of course, the other Franklin drop in the third quarter, which was just like really on third down. These are all drive killing. When I talk about the drop, Sutton, Franklin, these are drive killers. So it's just like Tony Romo. I don't mean to make Tony Romo sound like, Nostradamus here, but his observation when they're going to kick that field goal, Zach, at the end of the second quarter, and he says, hey, this is the Broncos is this particular wild card team going against a juggernaut like the Bills. They don't have a margin for error. You basically have to be perfect in the fine margins, in the critical situations, and they were far from it.
And that would have made it an even ball game at the half, Chad. It would have made it 0-0, which is basically a big momentum boost for the Broncos. Not having that tie ball game, missing the field goal. It's crazy that two of the most heartbreaking defeats this season have come down to a missed field goal, and we praise Will Lutz every week. But Tony Romo's right, and everyone who says the same thing is right. When you go on the road to Buffalo in the playoffs and you're a massive underdog, you have to take the points where you can get them. You can't miss field goals. You can't drop passes. You have to be nearly perfect, and Denver just simply wasn't today.
Chris, love you, big dog.
Thank you, Chris.
And look, even though the season comes to an end, it's like Zach and I were talking about too. It's like because we're such football nerds, either way we won today because now we get to turn the page to my favorite part of the NFL calendar, believe it or not, which is, you've heard me say it before, it's the January through the draft period. I love this stuff. We get into how do we make it better? How do we tweak things so that the next playoff game we're not getting destroyed on the ground? How do we upgrade at linebacker? PJ Locke, hey, great number 3 guy, not a starting safety. What do you do? So we'll look forward to diving further into the offseason. That's more for podcasts after today, but still, Chris, love you, big dog. Edward Navarrete, what's up, bro? VJ has to go. We need an offensive coordinator. Why were we running it if it didn't work? Our passing, what the WTF was that? Every time we went out, I called a 3 and out. Horrible. F you, Sean. Oh, man. Hey, it's a gut reaction for a reason, Zach. Let them work out the hormones. Look, you have to try to run the ball, but they are such a one-trick pony, the Broncos, that all the Bills, they knew that they could just stop them on first and second down. That became a little too predictable, though, Zach. I'll agree with that. Sean Payton, hey, if you're going to run it on first down, maybe every once in a while call a pass on second down, just to make them think a little bit. But the Bills could just sit back on third down, play shell defense, and get them off the field because they would stuff them on first and second down. So a lot of that, though, is Sean Payton knowing, guys, we go back to one of the mandate keys here, which is, Zach, you got to keep Josh Allen on the sideline. So Sean Payton's going, come on, guys, this is the game where we get it together. Let's go out there and run the ball. And I was encouraged, Zach, that they activated Bidet, who finished today with a grand total of 2 carries for 4 yards. Or 8 yards, pardon.
And it came at the expense of Audric Estime. I don't know what Estime has done behind the scenes to get in Sean Payton's doghouse, but he is lodged in there, boy, let me tell you. And this is why I hate the committee approach at running back. I understand it's a 2 running back league now, but when you have 4 guys constantly shuffling, I don't think the offense can ever build a camaraderie with that. And beyond that fact, Chad, like we've been talking about, when you're relying on undrafted free agents and mid-round picks and guys coming off knee reconstructive surgery, it just shows once again the lack of elite blue chip talent. They got to get a running back, a premier running back in that backfield stat.
No doubt. It's mandatory. In fact, before everybody starts going out and wringing their hands over the wide receivers and the tight ends, I'm not saying you don't try to add there, but the big 4-alarm situation here is running back. Period. End of story. Hey, Pookie, thank you for the 4 years. God bless you. Tough twist of fate there with the way the injury bug kind of altered the trajectory, but we're moving on and we're using our resources to find an upgrade. It's unfortunate that you couldn't get in on the Josh Jacobs sweepstakes a year ago, but find a guy like that. Taylor, Mount Rushmore superstar, also checking in to say, great season it was. Dude, are you trying to talk like Yoda? Great season it was. But today, Buffalo was just the better team. We have a lot of work to do this offseason. We should clean house at linebacker. Go Broncos. Yeah, a lot of work to do. But again, guys, let's not sell the Broncos short on all the odds they defied, all the predictions. You know, one of the things I did this weekend, Zach, and I started actually kicking myself after I watched like 3 of them, thinking we should have done something like this, was watching all the freezing cold takes on Bo Nix at the draft, you know, going back and watching them and just laughing my ass off at how wrong people got it. Not you and I. You and I were stoked on Bo Nix for what it's worth. That's not me trying to, you know, beat my chest. As you guys know, my philosophy, my policy is when I'm wrong, I admit it ASAP. But Zach, you and I were both right about Bo Nix.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a lot of gloom today, but he was, the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Bo Nix, the way he played, and again, like I said, they look like a little after that first touchdown, Chad. They lost that passion and that motivation. They were kind of going through the motions, especially PS2 giving up that long touchdown. When does PS2 ever just throw his hands up and give it up? So Bo Nix was the only guy I thought that was going out there and fighting every down.
I'm not sure he deserves to be the defensive player of the year, dude. Honestly. Because those kind of things, he does that every once in a while, like where you're going, really, where'd the effort go, dude? Why aren't you leading by example? Not a great way. Let me put it. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, guys. I'm saying I'm not sure. Okay. And no matter what I am saying is what a terrible way for PS2 to punctuate a depoy campaign. Bad way to punctuate it. Leaves a bad taste in the voter's mouth. Not good. David, and let's catch up on some supers here. Zach's a little bit of rapid fire. Get everybody's take. David Youngkin says, and thank you, pal. He says, play calling was garbage on both sides of the ball. I don't know that the play calling was garbage on defense. The Broncos just could not win in the trenches. The defensive line was getting blown off the ball, and the linebackers were just not fitting the run well and not tackling well. And it just goes to show, for what it's worth, you know, the other team gets paid too. And that freaking running back is legit, dude. James Cook is the man. Ted Wonderlick, bro, thank you. Very generous. Top rope super chat. He says, oh, well, this was still my favorite Broncos team since 2015. And I had a lot of fun this year. We made the playoffs with $90 million in dead cap. And we have our franchise quarterback and looked vastly improved. Couldn't be prouder. I'm excited for our future. MHH for life. Exactly. There's so much about this team that is just awesome. And so, Zach, deserving of the playoffs. The Bo Nix history, all that is a thing. You get Sutton over 1,000 yards. You get Mims back to the Pro Bowl and All-Pro. You get Quinn Miners, #1 right guard in the NFL, All-Pro. You get 2 sack artists over double digits in Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper. You get Allen, Zach Allen, his first All-Pro recognition. There's just so much great about this season, but not quite enough. But that goes to show you guys, like, they're only a few pieces away. Believe it or not, the Broncos are only a few pieces away from being a juggernaut themselves.
If you would have told me a year ago or so when the Broncos benched Russ and it was looking likely they were going through another quarterback search, if you would have told me they'd go 10-7 with a rookie quarterback, the biggest dead hit in NFL history, and they make the playoffs and they keep it competitive at halftime at Buffalo, I would have said you're crazy. I would have not believed it. So we have to keep it in perspective here. I know it stings right now. I know it sucks, but this was still unquestionably a successful season for the Broncos because, again, they finally found that franchise quarterback, Chad.
Thanks again, Ted. Let's grab 2 back-to-back supers from Patriot Text. Thank you, pal. He says, theme of the day, not good enough, NGE. Coaches, game plans, NGE. Linebackers, running backs, not good enough. Franklin finally catches a deep route and Vele disappears. We need to draft a real tight end. Not good enough. Time to get better now. Then he says, happy with the season, but are we going to get better or continue as paper tigers? Will Peyton get better if the players are better? I hope so. We need to draft Tyler Warren, get a legit running back, and find real inside linebackers. Well, half of that equation is already solved in that you're getting Alex Singleton back next year. Will he be the same player? There's a possibility not, but I think he'll probably be pretty close to the same player that he was. So really, you need to upgrade that, sure, but there's that, Zach. You can use the resources to not only maybe find other options at linebacker, but in my opinion, Zach, the order priority on needs offensively is running back, tight end, wide receiver in that descending order.
Yeah, I mean, even when Singleton was healthy, it was of my opinion that they still need an upgraded inside linebacker. It's the one position they haven't addressed, Chad, in probably a decade or so. They need athleticism and they need some explosion, a guy who can run sideline to sideline. I have been banging that drum for years now. So hopefully they get that addressed. In terms of the offense, this is a situation where I feel like the idle mind is a devil's workshop for Sean Payton because he's have to galaxy brain and think and overthink how to create plays and how to create mismatches with the lack of talent. If you give a Tyler Ward to him, if you give blue chip talent to Sean Payton, he could just put it on autopilot. I mean, the talent would take care of itself and the Broncos offense would continue to produce more without getting so big brained. Thank you, Patriot.
Thank you, buddy. Max Rio up in Canada. Thank you, bro. He says, hey, gents, terrible loss. We need weapons for Bo, and we need dogs on defense. Great season. Broke some bad streaks. Now it's time to build for the future. Go Broncos. Oh, yeah. This team, you can't even say it's close anymore. They made the playoffs. Now, if you're going to use that phrase, they're close, you're going to be talking about Super Bowl, their Super Bowl window, competitive relevancy as it applies to the Super Bowl. Few pieces to get over that hump. And yeah, it's just like personnel does play a big part in it, guys. And it's not just like act like you've been there before, but you saw in a few situations today, Denver's inexperience come to the fore, not the least of which I know it was kind of a meaningless possession because the Bills had just gone up by 3 scores, or was it 2? That 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, whatever it was, when they dump it off to McLaughlin and he just kind of runs out of bounds, doesn't even stretch for the pylon like he thinks maybe he's already got the yardage. You see Sean Payton lighting up Franklin, something about a block he got wrong, it looks like, or just did something wrong on the play. But just all those situations where it's like, oh yeah, got to remind ourselves we're like really young. But this was a good experience for them. Even though they lost, Zach, they got some live bullet experience back in the playoffs, and that will serve them down the road. Ren99 says, tough loss, looked good in the first half, then just didn't show up in the second. Can't complain, though. We proved the doubters wrong, made it further than anyone thought we would. We will be back. Well said, Ren. And then, Zach, let's grab Brendacho. Still a lot to catch up on. Thank you, bro, for the very generous super chat. It says, gentlemen, it's been a ride. This game was a microcosm of the issues we've seen all year. Drop passes, near zero penetration at the line of scrimmage on both sides, coming short on key downs, but lots to look forward to. On to the draft. MHH for life, Broncos for life. Yes, indeed, bro. And, I don't know what it was, Zach, about Riley Moss getting hurt against the Raiders, but this defense, even since he returned, like that did something to him. They just haven't been the same since then.
I think Cleveland, Riley Moss or not, put something on tape for the rest of the NFL. And ever since then, Chad, the opponents have just picked that apart. Whatever VJ's Achilles heel is on tape, teams are exploiting that. Brendacho is 1,000% correct here. It's why I said it reminded me of the Cincinnati loss or the second Chargers loss. The coaching is great until it's not. The players look good until they don't. Usually they're a second half team. Today they were a first half team. We're still waiting for that mythical 4-quarter completely dominant game against a good opponent. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait until next season. But I think we're very close to it, Chad.
Very close. Tex again saying, I'm trusting this offseason we will address our needs. which Buffalo exposed all day. No more Sternad and Sanders. Get some real linebackers. Get another defensive tackle, a beast. Let's Bo. Time to get better. Yeah, Sternad. Hey, I think it was a 1-year deal they brought him back on, right? So, like, he's going to be hitting free agency, I'm pretty sure. And like you mentioned earlier, they have technically addressed linebacker in the form of Drew Sanders, but then they couldn't decide, oh, we're going to play him off ball, we're going to play him on the edge. Then he got hurt. You missed him for most of his second year. So whatever your plan was for him anyway kind of got foiled thanks to the injury bug. But we'll see, Patriot Text. Fox Family breaks, too many missed opportunities. And by the way, thanks, bro. That said, we have a lot to look forward to. I can't wait to see the moves we make. We need inside linebacker, a couple of tight ends, running back, and more, Zach.
Yeah, you mentioned PJ Locke being a backup and not starter caliber. That's exactly what we've been saying on this podcast about Sternad. There's a reason why he was a career special teamer. There's a reason why a few years ago when they tried to start him, that experiment didn't last very long. It reminds me of starting Deshaun Williams on the defensive line or Jonathan Harris. They always have that one weak link. But how about the scheme? How about all the times that DJ Jones, of all people, 300 pounds, was dropping in the flat in coverage? These are the schematic issues, Chad, of Vance Joseph that I don't understand. And there's a clip going around of Sean Payton and VJ getting into it on the sideline a little bit of a disagreement. I understand why. It was not a good look for the defense, and they haven't looked good since before that Cleveland game.
And also to credit Jones, a lot of plays of him 4, 5, 6 yards down the field making the tackle. Not good for the defense when your defensive tackle is the guy downfield cleaning up a play. Not good at all. Thank you, Fox family. Elias, what's good? Ouch. Love our coach and QB, but our linebackers must be the number one priority. And the running back rips off a 10-yard run. Don't take him out of the game the next play. He might get hot. Our next years are bright. Exactly, dude. Yep. And yeah, that's the whole Sean Payton running back by committee thing, giveth and taketh. It's mostly taketh from the Broncos so far, but I firmly believe a big reason for that is Payton knows his guy is not on this roster. So he really emphasizes to the position coaches pregame relative to the committee. Let's keep fresh legs in there on the reg. And sometimes that bites him. Text again, number 4 super chat saying, Chad and Zach, thank you for making the losses easier to take and the wins sweeter. You guys are the best. I'm not going anywhere. MHH for life. Let's Bo. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. And I'm glad we can maybe help take the sting off, take the edge off a little bit. MBLE test prep. Proud of this team and this season. Tyler Warren's going to be a great Bronco. Zach, do you think it's that locked, like it's just Warren to Denver?
If he's available, I mean, the Broncos are going to have a pretty late pick in the first round. I think when it's all said and done, Tyler Warren can go in the upper half of the first, but we'll see. Regardless, though, that's the direction the Broncos have to look. The number one priority, Chad, of this offseason is building around Bo Nix. Tight ends, receivers, and running backs. Bring them all in.
The Crazy Car Guy. That's a newer name on Super Chat, if I'm not mistaken, Zach. So welcome. Crazy. Welcome, big dog. If you're crazy about the Broncos, you came to the right place, my dog. Says, I'm excited for this team's future. If this is our base, I'll take it every time, or our floor. We weren't supposed to win more than 5 games this year. We had the league's highest dead salary cap. Let's get to work. Exactly, bro. Welcome. Thank you for the super chat. Don't be a stranger. Ernie Gandolfo in the house. What's good, bro? Unpopular opinion, another newer name, right? I don't recognize Ernie on Super Chat, so welcome, thank you. Unpopular opinion says Ernie, but the Broncos had their heart snatched by the Bills, and PS2 never shows up when it matters. Well, that is an absolute. I try to stray from absolutes when it comes to football, but I will actually concur with you on this, Ernie, that, that's one of the things that, to me, when you think about the greats, I think about, like, I was too young to really have memories of Louis Wright, okay? But you think of guys like Louis Wright, the guy for whom the term shutdown corner was coined, for Louis Wright, literally, in case you didn't know. Then the Champ Baileys, the Aqib Talibs, the Chris Harris Jr.'s. Those guys all had that knack. When the chips were down, the most important moments, they make a play. You don't see that as much. Now, I don't want to take away from PS2 the plays he has made, like, think about, for example, that first Raiders game earlier this year in Denver. Broncos are getting trucked, picks off Gardner Minshew in the red zone, takes it to the house, and that opened the floodgates. That was critical. But in a general sense, I do agree with you, Ernie, that I'd like to see PS2 make bigger impact in bigger moments.
You're right. It seems like there's an disappearing act with PS2 sometimes, but of the culprits for the Broncos season or this loss, he's very, very low on my list, Chad. I think the coaching
Yeah.
let him down. I
Yeah.
think the supporting cast on both sides of the ball let him down. So, yeah, PS2 wasn't his greatest game, but he's still a tremendous player who we're very lucky to have.
Ernie, welcome. William Shaw, what's good, bro? We know this guy. He says, what a fun season. I can't wait to see what they do with that cap space. Jim Nantz said it best. It wasn't our turn yet. We are on the way, though. Denver Broncos for life. Agreed, William. Thank you, pal. Omar in Nigeria checking in. See, Broncos country. Omar. It's not a geographic location. It is a state of being. Great to see you. Thank you, bro. Says a very good season. By the way, we're going to have Omar on the show now that the season's in the books and we start getting some superstar segments together and inviting our biggest supporters onto the show. Omar's got a phenomenal story. He told it to me via email, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. He's willing to share it. So at some point here in the very near future, we're going to have Omar on, and he can tell that story. But Omar says, a very good season, a lousy game. Only Knicks showed up. A missed kick, dropped passes, arm tackles, were slow, and then gave up the fight. I hate the running back rotation. Where is Audric Estime? I don't understand. A very good season, but I didn't want to go out like this. Denver Broncos for life, MHH. Yeah, bro. Thank you again, Omar. And Zach, that's something you said, like kind of the worst possible thing could have happened in this playoff game. The first one since 2015, and it happened.
Yeah, to me, that was my gut. I predicted in all, full disclosure, I predicted a Broncos win today. I stayed a believer as long as I could, but it was one of two scenarios, either a gritty upset for Denver or just a dominating blowout for Buffalo, the better team, the favorite team, and that's what happened today. But Omar, your points are very valid here. Estime, again, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he took a leak in Sean Payton's Cheerios earlier this season and he hasn't forgiven him for it, but they need to figure out what they're doing at running back, and they need, again, a blue chipper, because I don't think any of these guys, Estime included, are the long-term answers.
Brandon says on Facebook, it doesn't matter what anyone says. It was a great season. We need a running back, tight end, receiver, linebacker, safety, D-line between free. In other words, we need a team between free agency and the draft. It should be a fun offseason. Amen to that, bro. Zach, I'm just we don't have Mr. Producer with us today. And so it's a little bit harder when it's just Zach and I to make sure we're grabbing all of our great Facebook supporters. So I'll circle back and let's give these shouts to Glassman anyway. Glassman's been with us a long time. I'm not sure this is a star comment, but either way, he's an OG, deserves it. He's got a great message for everybody, which is keep your head up, Broncos country. This is the best I've felt after a loss in a long time. Well said. And like Pearl on Facebook, I'm sad but proud of the Broncos. Indeed, it's not great, but let's not miss the forest for the trees and recognize, how far this team came. Naj, what's up, bro? Thank you.
Naj.
Thank you, brother. He says, hey, brothers, Bills played a masterful game. You nailed it. We couldn't compete in the trenches. The missed field goal, then the drops eliminated any momentum. Solid season, but the end of this game and the lack of fire left a terrible taste in my mouth. Agreed. And again, I think the most symbolic aspect, Naj, was that fourth down where Sean Payton went off, because he knows what it takes. He knows what it is. As a coach, you can only impart so much of your experience to the players without them having to go out there and experience it themselves. There is no such thing as experience through osmosis. Experience only comes through experience. And that was very disappointing in particular, Zach, that fourth down where Jaleel McLaughlin kind of ran out of bounds. I mean, he was pushed out, but like he didn't even it's like he totally forgot I got to get to the pylon, or he thought he had already made it. But that, I agree, Naj, was the bad taste, is kind of like, well, you kind of gave up in the fourth quarter, it seemed like.
From my point of view, it seemed like the Broncos' game plan was trickery and aggressiveness, and when that failed, they had no counter, Chad. They didn't know what to really do, and it was demoralizing for them because you complete that big touchdown to Franklin. What do you do after that? The next series, you go 3 and out. You have that fake punt. What do you do after that? You have to punt it away because you go 3 and out. You have to capitalize, and it seemed like for every bit of momentum and exhilaration from those plays the Broncos made, not being able to capitalize or do anything with it just took the wind out of their sails. And by the second half, they were an uncompetitive team, which should never happen in the playoffs, by the way. But thank you so much, Naj. As
Love
always.
you, Naj. Jorge, what's up, buddy? Saying, pumped to watch a Broncos playoff game. I had forgotten the feeling. We struggled in December and backed into the playoffs. I agree. I mean, we did end up winning that last one. It was against the Chiefs backups, but it was very Tebow season-esque in that we backed into the playoffs. The holes in the team were obvious. Here's to a good offseason and hope of a better tomorrow. Well said, Jorge. I agree very, very, very much. David, again, Youngkin saying 0-9 in the playoffs while trailing at halftime. That's Sean's record, and that will haunt him. Interesting. Definitely haunted him today. DJ Capo, what's up, bro? Still rocking his Bo Nix jersey with pride. Love it, dude. He says, a great season, 5.5 wins. We proved him wrong. Enough said. Move Riley Moss to safety and get another corner. We need a running back, tight end, a new DC and OC, someone who can get Sean out of the 90s with the plays. VJ will take a head coaching gig. Maybe. I don't think he'll get one this year, especially with that performance in the playoffs. I don't think so. But then again, Fangio's defense, the year he got hired in Denver, dominant all year, picked up this massive wealth of cachet, went into the playoffs against Philly, laid an egg. He's still got a head coaching gig. So it's possible, but something's telling me this isn't quite the year for VJ. But that's a thought, Zach. I want to talk about this for a moment. We got a lot of supers to catch up on. But his point here, we're saying, hey, PJ Locke, not a starter. Great number 3, great nickel guy, great big nickel, come in, do the thing. But Riley Moss, he can cover. There's a reason he's a corner. He's a very good corner. I've been resistant to this, but the more I think about it, the more it tastes good, makes sense. Move Moss to free safety. Let Brandon Jones be that physical, strong guy. Bring PJ Locke in as your nickel linebacker and your third safety on nickel, and find another corner. I like it, but what's harder, finding a good safety or a passable, solid starting safety, or a solid corner that can hang opposite of PS2? That's a tough answer.
Right, for sure. I don't think VJ is going to get many head coaching gigs after today's performance and over the course of the last month or so. But hey, any team that wants to hire him, be my guest. The Broncos would get 2 third-round picks, and I'd take those. Make Jim Leonard the DC. My opinion, Chad, is I'm not so worried about the defensive back end, but I am worried about the inside linebackers. And also, hot take maybe, can we talk about the pass rush? Another game where they didn't get anywhere near the quarterback. I love Cooper and all, but there's a lot of games where he just kind of disappears opposite Benito. They need a truly elite guy, a Von Miller guy at that spot.
By the way, a couple times I saw Von with his patented spin move that lets him get inside, and I was like, oh, I recognize that guy. Anthony Pennington, love Denver, no sacks, and Vaughn was quiet all game. We got 1 sack. Or was it 2? Let me see. Double checking this. 1 sack. No, 2 sacks. DJ Jones got one, and Zach Allen. So our edge guys, though, were shut out, Anthony, for what it's worth. White Lightning, I don't blame VJ. The defense can play good only so long till they get gassed. Time of possession was lopsided. Drop passes and offensive play calling are to blame. Regardless, I'm proud of this team. I love you, bro, White Lightning, but you're right and you're wrong. You're wrong to completely absolve the defense. They could not stop the run. That was the dagger. And yes, you get back into the whole equation of what is complementary football. The Broncos definitely got the equation wrong today, but what you want to see is at least be solid against the run and force Josh Allen and the Bills into some third and unfavorables. You didn't see that when it mattered today. Meanwhile, and this is where I will agree with you when I say, White Lightning, that you're right and you're wrong. The play calling, the drop passes on offense in the face of a defense on the other side that's not able to stop your opponent, it was a little misguided. Like after that double digit, they got to 2 touchdown lead, Zach, and I think it was either top of the 4th or very bottom of the 3rd. And I took to Twitter and I was like, okay, hey, it sucks, but at least the silver lining is Sean Payton will take the training wheels off and go tempo. And to my chagrin, it became a freezing cold take, Zach, within like 2 minutes, because the very next possession ensuing, run 2 yards. Second down, run 2 yards. Third down brings up a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. We go 3 and out. Enough said. So I agree with you, White Lightning, that the offensive play calling and the drop passes were brutal and complicit in today's result. but do not absolve that defense, dude. They could not stop the Bills.
The coaching wasn't great. The players didn't execute. It wasn't Sean Payton going out there and dropping a pass. It was Cortland Sutton, for example. But
Yeah.
the play calling in the second half left a lot to be desired, and that's what Sean Payton kind of does. Horizontal east-west football, doesn't really attack down the field. On defense, players didn't execute, but VJ, as a coach and his schematics, did not do them any favors. I mentioned DJ Jones dropping back in coverage, not stopping the run. That's a discipline and coaching issue, Chad, when the opposing running back is ripping off 7, 8, 9 yards a carry. It's one thing for the offense to put him on the field, but the Broncos defense rarely ever got off the field themselves. It's another calling card of a VJ defense that we've been hammering on. When they need him to, in crunch time, they rarely ever step up.
Jay the Reactor, what's up, dude? Welcome. Says, if we can't draft a tight end, go for Kittle or try to trade for Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson. Those would be game changers. Yeah, I mean, they're going to have a lot of opportunities to upgrade the offense, the roster, basically, this season, because for the first time since pre-Russ, you have a full complement of draft picks and plenty of cap space to be competitive out there. Tyson Fillmore, appreciate y'all. Stoked for next season. Well said, Tyson. Welcome. Thank you. Nate Dizzle saying, hate to lose, but I'm excited for the next 15 years. Exactly. It sucks, but we're going to be back, guys. We got Brandon crushing it, a casual Broncos fan. Welcome. Thank you. December, January has confirmed to me that VJ isn't the defensive coordinator of the future. He has been exposed, to be honest. Needs are running back, tight end, linebacker, and safety to me. Go Broncos. Let's Bo. I think for the most part, I'm in agreement with you, although I would tell you that the only reason VJ isn't the DC of the future is because he's probably going to get a head coaching gig. Not necessarily, like I said, I don't think it's going to be his year this year. He's good enough. I mean, look at this defense, guys. Who expected anybody but Pat Surtain to be prolific this year? Think about it. And this is a credit to VJ. This was like the newfangled Zach no-name defense. Pat Surtain, and then who? And then you have Nick Bonito become a thing. You have Jonathan Cooper become a thing. Zach Allen became a big thing. A lot of different developments relative to the pass rush. I mean, he just coordinated, crushing it, the number one sack defense, not only in the league, Zach, but in Broncos history. So he's got some skins on the wall. He won't be the DC of the future, but that's because at some point he will probably get another head coaching gig.
He has the highest blitz rate in the NFL, so not totally surprising their sack numbers are so high. He tends to create a lot of turnovers with that chaos, but the thing with VJ, in my opinion, is that when they don't force turnovers, when they don't get sacks, they're a very, very below average defense, and we'll see what happens with the head coaching gauntlet and whether he stays or goes. I would add another need to the list, obviously, is receiver here. Definitely running back, definitely tight end, but it can't just be Cortland Sutton and maybe Marvin Mims and nobody else. Troy Franklin's unreliable. Devon Vele's like a good number 3, number 4 guy you need. And the previous comment said it true, and I'll agree. Garrett Wilson, make a trade for him. Maybe not give up a first-round pick, but even if you do, he'd be better than any receiver you would take in the first round and the perfect complement to Cortland Sutton. Regardless, though, Chad, it's a major need.
Crushing it. Thank you, buddy. We also have Casey Nickel in the house. What is going on, bro? Great to see you. Thanks for the super chat, bro. We'll be in touch about a few things. He says, man, I love this team. And as much as it hurts, I'm so excited for the future. This reminds me of the Bills when they first had Allen. Now we build around our QB. I hope VJ gets a head coaching job so we pick up another couple of picks. That's true. If you might want to root for VJ actually getting hired, Zach, because explain what the Broncos get if that happens.
Because of the new rule for hiring minority assistants the NFL implemented, the Broncos would get 2 third-round picks in consecutive years if VJ were to depart for a head coaching job. So sayonara, VJ. Hope you get it.
But yeah, we'll see, buddy. And I'm with you. Excited for the future. Naj, number 2, saying, I get no one may want to say this, but we know VJ. His defenses are inconsistent against decent O-lines and get pushed around. Do you think VJ will be let go? No, I don't think he'll be let go. Because again, I just got done saying the accomplishments and the skins he hung on the wall this season, but that doesn't remove the warts. And I agree with you. Inconsistent, yes. Critical games, especially down the stretch. I mean, I was proud of what they did against KC. You got in Arrowhead. You got blown out by Baltimore. I'm thinking of the top level opponents this year, right? So you got blown out by Baltimore. You hung tough against Steelers, though, except it was with Justin Fields as at quarterback. Moving on, Tampa Bay, you totally dominated that offense. That's a playoff team. You get on to the KC game, put your team in position to win that. But then, really, Zach, like you said, it was that Monday night game on. Something shifted, something changed, and we can't. We basically have to remove the season finale as an outlier because it was against backups. So you remove that from the equation, and that was the biggest reason why the Broncos struggled to win down the stretch in December was the defense suddenly reversing course.
Look at it sequentially, Chad. After the Cleveland game was the Indianapolis game, and Anthony Richardson, of all quarterbacks in that first half of the first couple series, was picking them apart. After that was Los Angeles. Herbert in the second half especially was just surgical. Then came Cincinnati, and we all saw what Joe Burrow did even with Riley Moss in the lineup, I should say. This has been, and you're right, Naj, the calling card of VJ. These defenses are clutch and good until they're not. And when you need them to be, they just fall apart, and especially against high-level opponents. You saw it today, and it will continue happening again. Whether he returns, though, Sean Payton did say when he was hired, he is, slow to hire and quick to fire. We'll see if he holds true to that in 2025.
Hey, guys, real quick, Max, thank you, bro. And agreed, up in Canada, the future is bright. Denver Broncos for life. Guys, we still have a little bit of time left. We're not quite done tonight, but we do have to keep it a little bit tighter than usual on our stream. So any burning topics, questions, supers, get it in the chat right now. And even though the Broncos season is officially in the books, it doesn't mean your fantasy play needs to be as well, because Underdog Fantasy continues as long as there's football to be played. You're going to want to play it with Underdog Fantasy and join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog, including your football priests. With their pick'em game, you can win money by making entries with your favorite players, compete against others just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats. That could win you up to 1,000 times your money. Turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
And with their champs game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
That's right, guys. So download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog Fantasy app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown. Your fantasy football season can march on with Underdog Fantasy.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado. For some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
By the way, at the risk of getting in trouble with the algo bots, here is a quick look at the a replay at this little now I wouldn't call this an altercation. This kind of shows you, in my opinion, Zach, from NFL on CBS, you retweeting it. They're about to get into it a little bit, but it's like Sean Payton's asking him, what the heck was X? What was that, right? And then here we go. He tries to explain it. Sean Payton kind of walks off. I don't think it was what people kind of portrayed it to be. A little frustration. Sean Payton letting him know there's something he didn't like. What's going on? But I wouldn't see this as 2 guys going at it. I think this was 2 guys expressing their shared frustration. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, heat of the moment, tough loss. Everyone's kind of pissed off. So I get it. But it's maybe a crack in the foundation where if Peyton does decide to move on, this could be the impetus. That could be the origin of why that did happen. We'll see in the coming weeks and months.
So I'm going to take a look here on the back end. I don't want to, if we can avoid missing the people who, it's hard to tell. I don't know how Scott does it so well with the Facebook stars, but let's see what Instagram. Let's see what you guys got. Wampus for Prez, playoff experience was the most important thing today. A great season, lots of work to do this offseason. Excited for the future. Agreed on that. And yeah, you needed that experience. And again, you can only impart so much of your wisdom to an inexperienced pupil, okay, or in a collective sense, team. You need them to taste it. You need them to experience a little bit. Now, when they start preparing for the 2025 season, Zach and they come together, and Sean Payton's message at these team meetings in the podium is, we tasted it. You all know what the playoff intensity feels like now. You all know what playoff demands are, how you have to rule the margin for error, meaning you cannot error and expect to win against playoff opponents. Like, there's so much good that will come out of this. It's just we won't be able to see it for 8 months, 9 months, whatever it's going to be, 8 months.
Sean Payton should explain that the Buffalo Bills are just right now a tier above where the Broncos are, and that's where they have to work to get to. But fortunately, when you have a franchise quarterback like Bo Nix, the expectation going forward isn't a winning record, isn't squeaking into the playoffs. It is winning playoff games, plural, and that's going to be the goal in 2025.
I agree, Mike. Too many drop passes on third down, period.
Yep.
Totally. And it's weird, man. Troy Franklin giveth, and he taketh away. Like you said, Zach, they finally come together on a deep pass. Bo Nix and Troy Franklin, the Oregon tandem, and then just can't. That was it. Like, they peaked right away. Really, really frustrating. Jelani James jumping in. Thank you, by the way, Jelani. The personnel has to improve. VJ can't do much when Josh Allen's sitting back there with all day against PJ Locke and a secondary full of liabilities. Offensively, we have to overhaul the skill room around Bo. Those guys suck. I wouldn't say they suck. Honestly, guys, the biggest thing here, every one of those wide receivers and even the tight ends. By the way, Nate Adkins has become the Broncos' best tight end. Believe that or not, he has been. But that's saying something, by the way. I'm saying that, yes, you need to upgrade tight end, but the big thing that can unlock and all of a sudden make Bo Nix look light years better, make his supporting cast, the pass catchers, look so much better, is a dynamic, true Zach bell cow RB1. An Alvin Kamara type of guy that, or like you saw today, a James Cook, a guy that creates on his own. That's what you need, because it all of a sudden makes a kind of ho-hum Josh Allen day relative to what we've seen Josh look like. Oh my goodness, all of a sudden he's got 272 yards, a couple touchdowns, 50 almost yards rushing. It all starts for Buffalo. I mean, as good as their quarterback is, I'm not trying to take anything away from him, Zach. I'm saying, ask John Elway about this, by the way, with Terrell Davis. You need that running back as a quarterback to get on that next level.
This is where I feel like Sean Payton outsmarts himself a lot, and I've said it over the course of the season with the rotating running backs and not having the stud number one guy. And it's not a one running back league anymore, but look at Derrick Henry in Baltimore. Look at Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia. James Cook in Buffalo. Look at Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit. They also have David Montgomery, another really good running back. You need a blue chipper stud back there, and Sean Payton has to put aside his pride or whatever, or the way he's done things, and focus on that. Jelani, about VJ, again, I said the players have to execute better too. It's not solely on the coaches, but this is who VJ has been. This is who he's shown us to be. And when he shows us that, we have to believe him. Second team All-Pro in Zach Allen, an All-Pro in Nick Bonito, All-Pro in PS2. Really nice pieces in Riley Moss, Brandon Jones, JFM. How many more superstars does VJ need before the excuse is not with him? At some point, it's the scheme and not the players, Chad.
Lou 101 across the pond jumping in. Thank you, buddy. Really appreciate you. Another great example of the hashtag state of being right here. Lou says, RD has been better than expected. For me, I know it's had some ups and downs, but the cap hit has held back both sides of the ball. I think VJ deserves the chance to build with the gaps filled. and I think he'll get it, guys. I don't think you're going to see VJ go anywhere. The only possibility, Broncos aren't going to fire him. The only possibility, Zach, is that he gets hired away as a head coach, and I just don't think they say it's a down year for the head coach hiring cycle in terms of relative worthy candidates, but even notwithstanding that, we're talking about a retread that won 11 games in 2 years. Great story. The Broncos making the playoffs this year. Really cool that his defense led the league in sacks. But it was very streaky. If I'm an owner, I'm not convinced VJ as a retread by what I've seen from that defense is ready to be the man again. So we'll see though. But Zach, Lou's point, your thoughts?
It was streaky last season too. The 70-20 game happened. Then they went on that run where they forced a bunch of turnovers. They looked elite. And then they reverted back to the mean. And you saw Bailey Zappi in New England carve them up in a must-win game with the playoffs on the line. Again, it's who VJ has been from when he was a head coach to a 2-time defensive coordinator now, 3-time, whatever he's been. It's just the comment said it best. VJ's defenses are prone to mental lapses. When the other team punches them, Chad, the Broncos rarely have a counterpunch. That is coaching.
Claude Riley, thank you, brother. Drop passes are tough to watch. The future is bright in Denver, especially in such crucial games. It's like the Sutton, come on, dude, no excuse. You're the number one guy. You cannot drop that ball on third down. Troy Franklin, it's like, hey, rookie, you can't drop that. I know it wasn't like perfect. It was a little high, but if it passes through your hands to drop, you got to catch that. Just very disappointing. I agree with that. But we're at about 52 minutes. So let me just kind of take a peek, give Facebook some love here. Lauren, Greg Penner, the owner / CEO, should not allow Vance Joseph to return to Denver on the team charter. I disagree. I don't think it's that. That's not where we're at here. Ronk, good afternoon, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Gut reaction, go Bo Broncos. Yeah, bro, I hear you. I'm still there with you. I still believe. It's just, as Tony Romo said, Zach, or it wasn't Nance, not our turn yet.
It's true. The Bills are just the more seasoned team right now, and the Broncos are playing catch up a little bit.
John Butler, do you think the Broncos would trade up in the draft to get Ashton Genty? We need a new running back room.
I'd love it. I'd love it, Chad. I don't know if it's not feasible, considering how high he's going to go, and the Broncos have to give up capital, which they've done in consecutive years and multiple years. And also with Sean Payton's proclivity to using multiple running backs, I don't know that he puts a premium, as he should, by the way, on a player like Ashton, who would be just a phenomenal fit, his playoff game aside, in the system.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, you're going to need to get for sure into the top 10 if you want a shot at him for what it's worth. Jelani jumping in again. Thank you, bro. Says, love the podcast, guys. Love you too. Can't watch another Javonte Williams carry. Defenders' eyes light up knowing they're getting a solo tackle when he gets the ball. The drops from the receivers were just betrayals. And it's not just, Zach, that Javonte doesn't do much with his carries, because he is their best third down guy in terms of being able to trust him. So you go, okay, only use him on third down. Can't do that either. Because if you're going to use him as a linchpin on third down, you have to use him as a runner, or else it becomes an obvious tell. Anytime he comes in, you're passing the ball. So it's just one of those situations, I agree with you, Jelani, where time to move on from our great former second-round pick who had a bad break by the injury bug at the beginning of his second year and just never could quite, Zach, get back on the horse.
His longest run this season was 20 yards, Javonte Williams. And, in this day and age, Chad, quarterbacks like Bo Nix are breaking off 20-yard scrambles. That's not very impressive, and you need more from that position. So, Jelani, I agree. We all loved Pookie at one time. He looked like the future, but after the knee injury, he wasn't the same player, and you got to get that stud in the backfield ASAP.
Thanks again, Jelani. Love you too, big dog. Lawrence Rivera, love you, bro. Says, wow, what a season. At least we can keep our starters and start upgrading our secondary. This was still better than our beginning of the year prediction. Exactly. Broncos outkicked their coverage. It was a win no matter what. We would have liked to have seen them march on, or at least not get blown out in the final analysis, but that's the way this year's cookie crumbled. Casey Nickel, Thanks again, bro. Number 2 super chat tonight. Thank you, big dog. He says, we can't just get upset at VJ and the defense. The offense did nothing for basically the entire game after the one big play. True. And I think, again, even though it's not Bo Nix dropping the passes, he got really cold from, first possession and then the last possession of the first half. Got him down there in the field goal range. Good job, Bo Nix. Missed the field goal, unfortunately. Second half, one drop. So one drop, but your possessions were so few and far between. You can't go 3 and out. So it's on the rookie too. I was glad, Zach, that interception at the end ended up not being an interception, just for the sake of Bo's playoff record, because I know he's going to be going back. So I was at least stoked that the football god said, yeah, we burned you on that touchdown with the running back being out of bounds kind of when he caught it, but we're going to go ahead and wipe this one off the books.
It should have been a 10-10 game at the half. And after the missed field goal, they came out in the third quarter and looked like they just kind of gave up. They were very demoralized by that missed kick and not having that momentum going into the second half. It's not just VJ, Casey. It's not just the defense. It's on Sean Payton. It's on the offensive players as well. This is pretty much a team loss because the coaches didn't coach up to snuff. The players didn't execute well enough. And except for Bo, you could really argue no other player even showed up to Highmark Stadium today.
Ronk running the ball back to back to back on every single play was mind-boggling. Agreed. And on one hand, Zach, I understand why you tried to stick with it, because you got to try to stay on the field and you got to eat clock and you got to keep Josh Allen on the sideline. But when it was quite clear early it wasn't going to do much for you, you got to come up with other options. Even if it's, look, the Bills were not afraid to call some Josh Allen runs. If that's what you want to do, if you got to run the ball, keep the clock going, use Bo Nix. That's another thing he's proven this season. Sean Payton sizing him up at his pro day, or his not pro day, but his workout for the Broncos, and going, whoa, my dog's a lot thicker than I expected. It turned out that was the case in the wash too, in terms of how durable he was this year, how much of a creator he was with his legs. And you just, with very few exceptions today, Zach, weren't able to really capitalize on that playmaking component from your quarterback. That to me was disappointing as well. Uncle Rico's revenge. Checking in, Sean Payton is just another Dan Reeves, in my opinion. Well, there is a big exception there. Sean Payton has hoisted the Lombardi as a head coach. The great late Dan Reeves, alas, was unable to do it with 4 bites at the apple. BLD2342, I did expect to make the playoffs this year. I think he meant to say didn't. So better than expected year. Next year should be good. Exactly. And tomorrow, guys, we're going to dip on out of here. Zach's got a few messages for you. This is your last call for Burning Topics and Supers. But tomorrow on the Aftermath, we're going to be turning our focus toward how we get better in this, what's going to be a phenomenal offseason.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been almost an hour. You guys make it amazing. You have all season into the playoffs, so thank you so much for tuning in today and every Mile High Huddle podcast. If you haven't done so yet, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and don't forget about our producer Scott at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football pre-save 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very important as always, that you subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans, just like you, baby.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for just a phenomenal season here at MHH. All the support, all the conversation. You guys are MHH. Zach and I, we just work here, and that's not something we say. That's legit. You guys are the straw that stirs the drink, and I can't tell you how much we love and appreciate each and every one of you. But let's start with a tip of the cap and a mile-high salute to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, helping us keep the lights on in the face of a disappointing finish to an awesome season. Like Chris, off the tippity top rope, maxing out YouTube's Super Chat. Love you, Chris Hernandez. starting out from the top, Edward, Taylor, David Youngkin, Ted, Patriot Tex, Max Rio, Ren 99, Brendacho, Fox Family Breaks, Elias, Test Prep, man, that X in there really gets me. Crazy Car Guy, Ernie, William Shaw, Omar in Nigeria, Naj, Jorge, DJ Capo, Anthony, White Lightning, Jada Reacta, Tyson, Nate Dizzle, pardon me, Brandon Williams, Crushing It, Dave Glassman, Casey Nickel, Naj, multiple times Max, Jelani multiple times, Lou across the pond, Lawrence Rivera, Casey Nickel multiple times, Uncle Rico, BLD, The Ronk. And if we miss some of the stars today, guys, forgive us. We'll make it up to you, I promise. Plus, we do have something coming to celebrate the top supporters on Facebook from 2024. So stay tuned for that. All right. But in the meantime, guys, keep your chin up. Let's keep our focus and perspective where it needs to be. And that is, hey, we came up short this time, but it just wasn't our turn. We're ahead of schedule on the rebuild. Broncos have a full deck of cards to go in and rebuild this thing, full slate of draft picks and 50 plus million in cap space. And MHH is going to be here with you every single day to speculate, to preview, to break down, to analyze the rumors and the reports and how it all unfolds. This, again, this is no lie. My favorite part of the season, of the year, I should say, is January through the draft. So I'm excited going into this. Again, a bitter taste of disappointment, but also heart full knowing the Broncos are on the right track.
And most importantly, the Broncos finally have their franchise quarterback, what we've been searching for a decade, Peyton Manning's full-time successor. So the future's looking bright. The arrow's pointing up. They're going to be back to the playoffs. And as Michael points out here, we have 9 home games in 2025. Someone also asked if the schedule was hard next season. They have the 3rd place schedule. If you look at it, I posted it on Twitter, other places. It's not that difficult, but with Bo Nix and the Broncos pieces they're going to add, they will be competitive. And I think, Chad, back to the postseason. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you tomorrow to break down all the aftermath. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.